love that bass.
Hello.
Ooh.
Me too. And welcome to the Mid-Am Podcast. We are your hosts. I am Tyler Munns, and on the other side of the screen from me is my very good friend, Nathan Furumasu.
Hello.
Tonight, we thought we would, we thought we'd get a little spicy. Thought we'd throw a little heat out there.
That's
and,
right.
Dish out some hot takes or takes.
Yes.
I guess you'll be the judge if they're hot or not.
You can
So be sure
reply
to,
with
comment along.
the Scoville units.
That's right. That's right.
How
well, before we
spicy.
get started, I do want to say, if you're enjoying the show, we would really appreciate it if you if you gave us a review on whatever podcast app you listen on, which right now on the day is Apple and Spotify. Still working on Google Play. Weirdly hard to get your stuff published on the Google podcast app, but and then if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for doing that. Please subscribe to the channel. Throw us a like. We'd appreciate it. And if you're not watching on YouTube and you didn't know we were on YouTube, now you do. So, like I said, hot takes. We just kind of wanted to. We both kind of collectively and separately kind of thought about, hey, what's some potentially divisive, some potentially controversial opinions that we have on golf.
Opinions are like assholes, and we both have those. So let's.
You heard it here first, folks.
There you go.
There we go. So I guess, sorry, one more thing before we start. Nathan and I got to play a round of golf together.
We did.
We
could recap that a little bit.
Yeah, might as well.
Sometime.
We were Nathan coming off, being a dad for the second time and then immediately getting pneumonia. Shot me a text and said, dude, I have got to get out and play some golf. The weather gods have not been kind to us in the Pacific Northwest as it relates to golf. So it had just been rainy, but we saw one dry day in the forecast. And I said, hey, let's go out to Langdon Farms, because that's the only dry golf course in this part of the country, I think. And we got out there and we thought, hey, in the spirit of collaboration, in the spirit of partnership and friendship, we said, hey, let's play a scramble, 2-man scramble. And we threw it out on the Instagram page. We set the line at 71.5, and that's because I'm dumb and didn't realize that it's a par 71 at Langdon. And so I meant to put it, like us, the line was a half stroke under par, but whatever. We crushed it, knocked it out of the park.
We did it. We did it anyway. All you haters.
Yeah, that's right. We shot 70, kind of limped home, if I'm being honest. I think
figuratively and literally.
Yeah, we were tired, dude. It's been a long off season. What I liked about it was neither of us was striping it. I don't think. Nathan has been doing some speed training stuff with the Mach 3 system. So, you kept saying like, oh, that's new when the ball would do something off the driver, but you actually drove the ball very, very well. I
was very surprised just at my ball striking in general. I think I mentioned in our chop session episode that I was kind of like, I might just go all winter and not hit a ball. Mm-hmm. And I really haven't. I mean, I went to the range one time and I posted about it. It was like a week ago. But that was really it. And I still don't have a full set of irons. So that range session was mostly just driver and wedges anyway. So I kind of was pleasantly surprised going out and playing because I had no idea what I was going to get. But it was fun.
Yeah, I would say you drove the ball extremely well. It was kind of a coin flip on your wedge shots. It was either phenomenal or tough. And then you were flush in the irons. He was just grabbing my irons out of the bag. And you hit some really good iron shots, for
Yeah, I
someone
had a
who
few.
hasn't really hit any iron shots. And I think we both putted super well. We gave ourselves a
Hmm.
ton of birdie looks, and we scared the hole a ton. Um, we had 3 birdies on the day. One of them, like the first one, was on the second hole, like a 10-footer. We
Hmm.
both hit sick wedge shots into that hole too. That was
Hmm.
cool. And then the second one, I think, was a birdie that you had made.
It was a par
We almost,
five,
yeah, it was a par
seventh.
five. Yeah, you'd made you rolled
I had
like
sucked
an
the
8-footer
entire
in, maybe.
hole.
Yeah, and then you rolled like an 8-footer
No,
in.
it was longer than that. It was
Oh
like
yeah, no,
15 or something.
oh that's right, because that 10-foot
Yeah,
putt was like the shortest birdie putt we had all day.
yeah,
And then I just like miraculously rolled like a curling, like probably 22 foot putt in for birdie. Birdie my own ball. That was cool.
yep,
I
yep.
got to mark off a birdie on the birdie tracker for 2024. First week of January. That's new for me.
Mm,
Had 2 bogeys. One I would say wasn't bad because it was just we got a bad break on a
yeah,
volcano par 3, and I actually hit like a pretty good little chip shot to like 5 feet, and we both just missed the putt because it was kind of a downhill slider. But honestly, like a 4 is not, for it being like 100-yard par 3. The 4 is really not that bad of a score
yeah,
if you miss the green.
yeah. If you're familiar with course design at all, I think CB McDonald called this green design an FU. Um,
It's fitting.
and it's definitely an upside down bowl, and you got to be very precise. And also, it's like the windiest spot on the course for some reason. It's always like this
Yes.
crazy crosswind. So
Yeah,
yeah,
hard to
it's a tough
judge.
one.
And then the third, or the second bogey we made was on 17. We both hit just awful iron shots into this like 180-yard par 3 that was dead into the wind. And I'm going to blame it a little bit on the slow play, because the guys in front of us had iced us out, like that back nine especially. We played the front nine, I think, in like a little over like 210-ish, and then the back nine was like 250.
It was long.
Just
It
they
was
were playing so slow, and they were probably like a hole and a half behind. Yeah, 5-hour rounds kind of tough. And it was getting
yeah.
cold, so we hit some decent, and honestly, like that pin position was also not, was like nasty. It was
It
it
was
was a
pretty
joke.
tough. It was
So
on a slope for sure.
we
Like kind of
we
yeah.
we both hit like not great wedge chip shots, but like not horrible. And I don't know if we could have got it much closer than like 6 feet, but I think our
I mean, we had a
par
10
putt ended up
footer.
being like 10-footer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we both made a good run at it. It just didn't go in, and then we we oh god, and then
Dude,
18.
it was the saddest par on a par
Oh
5
god.
on
Yeah,
18
so yeah,
ever.
18. Nathan hits smokes a drive. We have like 209 yards in or something like that, but it was a little bit,
Mm.
into the fan. And I like thinned the hell out of a 7 wood, and it came up a good 30 yards short. And Nathan thought it had
And
gone in the water, and I should have been more. That was on me. I should have been more communicative,
yeah,
because then
I wasn't sure. And
yeah,
I
and I
yeah.
was certain. I saw it. I saw that it was up. And I should have said, "Hey, we're safe. Like, you don't have to play conservatively here." And you just kind of just like really played anti water ball, and
Yeah, I
put it
was
in the
trying
barn.
I was trying to be courageous, but that little, that little voice in the head, mid backswing is like, "Mm, I don't really want to go in the water because I don't know where Tyler is," and it was just a yeet and a half to
Yeah,
I-5.
a little
So
bit of the double
it
cross.
was it was yeah. I smoked it though. It was
You
all the
did.
way there,
Oh yeah.
and then some.
But we're thinking, hey, we got a 30 yard like pitch shot into a pretty easy front pin location, like no problem. I proceed to just like lay the sod over it and leave it a good 15 yards short. Got it about halfway there. And then I'm
Mm,
like, hey, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, this is not, I'm like, that sucks. I'm really mad that I did that, but I'm not worried because like Nathan's gonna just, he's gonna put it on the green at the very least.
yeah,
And then you did
and
like our balls were within
the
7 inches of each other.
historically speaking, that is like
No,
I
I,
love that range, like that little
yeah,
30-yard little like floater two hop check thing. Like I was all over that. I was drooling, and I fanned that thing.
yeah.
It
Well,
was
it just wasn't our day,
yeah,
or at least that wasn't our hole there.
not a
So,
hole.
but hey, we, one under on a very pretty damn cold day. It was real soggy. And in first round, I mean, first 18 holes I've played probably since October.
Yeah, I don't even
So,
know.
but yeah, lots of good stuff. So that was fun. It was fun to get out there. We've got more plans to play more golf and hopefully get some some content filmed around it. So I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah,
But let's dive into some takes.
for sure. Do you
Do you want to go
want to
first?
just? Should we just go down the list?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. My first one, let's see. Okay. This has a part A and B, I should say, because it's kind of like mm, maybe a sizzling take, not super hot.
Oh,
I
okay.
think there's probably plenty of people that, you know, would agree. And then the other one, I don't even know. I don't even know where it stands, but it's what I think. So we're
Okay.
going with it. Hole in ones are overrated. I'm just going to say it. We've talked about this so much. Like there's so little in your control once that ball
Oh,
is
yeah.
gone and in the air. So I mean, yeah, good players probably have more. They stand a better chance to make one, but even then, like there are PGA Tour pros who don't have very many hole in ones, and then there are 12 handicaps that have like I've got 15 in my life, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's all luck, like
100%.
90, yeah, a high
No,
percentage is luck,
it's
and so
100% luck.
it's so overrated, and I don't I think okay, is it
Do you have first of
neat?
all, do you have a hole in one?
I will say yes, but only because I'm going to define things here in a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
um, so they're neat. If you do it with your buds, right? It's electric or can be, um, but it's not that big a deal. It's overrated. It's lucky, which is cool, but it's not
Yeah.
that.
Well, and going back to that one statement you made about, well, if better players have more like a better chance of doing it. I have two anecdotes that says like that is not necessarily true. So one of my buddies in high school, his dad, incredibly good player, like had opportunity to like qualify for the US Senior Open many times. The dude is just an absolute stick. And I mean, this was like probably 15 years ago now at this point, but um, he got his first hole in one. Dude's been playing golf his entire life, played high level competitive golf his entire life, got his first hole in one at like 53 years old. So like, and then
Yeah,
another one is this guy in the Lamb group. His name's Rob, and it's I feel bad for him because it's just a running joke, and there are like 45 guys in this Facebook chat or a Facebook Messenger chat that just rag on him daily about how he's never had a hole in one. This dude plays 150 rounds a year, probably. He's like a plus handicap, like a very, very, very good golfer. Never had a
yeah,
hole in one, and so anytime
yeah.
anyone gets one, they send it to him
They
and tag
rub it
him,
in
and
his
then
face. That's
whenever they find
fantastic.
like videos of people, there's always those like videos that pop up of like first time playing golf gets a hole in one. There's a
Yeah,
couple out there that are reoccurring, and
yeah.
every time they like make the rounds on the social media viral train, it'll get posted into that chat, and they'll tag him, and it's brutal. So
That's savage.
I would agree that it is all luck. They are probably just from like a global like accolade perspective. It's really not that big of a deal
Right, it's
because
nothing to like brag about.
you could be a total beginner and like get one, or you could play your entire
Yeah.
life and never get one. And it doesn't like really, it's not indicative of like who you are as a player. I will say as like someone, I have one and I got it by myself, which really sucked. Um,
Mm,
it felt really nice to just kind of like check it off, just so if someone asked me like, hey, did you get a hole in one?
sure.
I'm like, yep, I did. I got one.
Yep.
If I got a second one, like it's going to mean probably nothing, honestly, to me. Now, if I were to get an albatross, which I haven't gotten, not, or at least not on the scorecard, I got one. Oh my God, really? Now that's
Yeah.
impressive.
But it's all luck though. Still, like
No, it's not.
you know,
Nope. 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 Nope.
uh,
Nope. No way. That is not, you can't tell.
when
No.
I will describe, okay, so there's this course in Salem called Salem Golf Club, aptly named.
Okay.
There's a par five. It's a tree lined, what's the word, park style course. Um, and there's this par five, kind of gentle dog leg left. You got to hit it out at least 240 ish to kind of make it to the corner and have some eyes on the green. Or what you can do is you can Waffle House one left of left through the trees back onto the previous hole's fairway, which is what I did, and have this like Grand Canyon view that of like this giant wall that you're trying to hit back up over of these huge pines, right? So I snap one left of left.
It's the Bryson
Um,
line.
yep, it's a par 67 or whatever he said. Um,
Exactly.
and I'm thinking, okay, well, I know I can get up over the trees if I just full on like swing out of my shoes, kind of open up a 5 iron and try and just get it as high in the air as I can. And maybe it'll be within 50 yards of the green. Cool. Right. So it's one of those things. It's one of those few shots in your life where it happens exactly as you picture it. So there's this like, you're looking at the tree line and kind of picking where you want to go over. And there's, the outlines of the trees that
Mhm.
are kind of creating these little V shapes. I'm sort of drawing. If you're not watching, then I'm sort of, describing the little
A
V's and
silhouette
notches.
of,
Yeah,
yeah.
sort of that serrated appearance to the tree line there. And there are some that are gaps that are slightly bigger than others. Well, I picked out the one that I thought looked right and played for just a tiny little cut. I hit this 5 iron. It towers up over the trees, falls right through that particular little V, and then I never saw it. And then I can just see a little bit of the green underneath the pines, and I see the ball bounce on the front of the green and twice and then disappear. And I'm thinking, cool, I hit the green. And then there were ladies on the tee that were waiting on me to get out of their fairway. They are, within 30 yards of the green and have a much better view, and they went nuts. Right. And then my buddy who was in the fairway of the hole we were actually playing, he also was like, dude, it went in. So, I mean,
Okay.
I hit
So
a good
that's not
shot,
luck. That's
but
granted the tee shot wasn't perfect, but whatever, you
I,
adjusted and you hit a phenomenal shot to give yourself a chance. There's no way you could have accidentally hit that good of a shot to create that, to like get up above the trees, go in the right
fair enough.
direction. It like, correct
Fair
distance
enough.
control. So like, that's not luck. That was skill. There's no way someone on their first day of playing golf has any
Yeah.
opportunity to recreate that. Whereas they could go on a 120-yard par three and accidentally hit a hole in one.
Okay. I will take that. I will receive it, and gladly.
Exactly.
It's pretty damn lucky that it went in though. I'll show it. I'll show you the
Yes,
line
that
sometime. You're
certainly, that part
sometime.
is astronomically lucky, but I will say in that instance, you
Yeah.
influenced like you influenced that ball to get really close to that astronomical chance, and it just so happened to go in.
Fair enough. So there you have it, folks. It takes one good swing to make an albatross.
There we
The
go.
other one can even be pretty bad. Uh,
Get one to It's a par five. You got one to play with, man.
exactly. Exactly. Anyway, so that was part A. Hole in ones, kind of overrated. Um, Sort of then as a you know a second addendum to that, I think a lot of this whole like when does a hole in one count and when does it not count stuff is so stupid and pointless. It always counts. If you, a hole in one is if you are on a tee box and you make one stroke and it goes in the hole, that is a hole in one from the tee.
Yes.
So I don't care if it's on a simulator, if it's on a short course, if it's on a putt putt course. I don't care. It's a hole in one. And so by that definition, I've got a slew of them.
Okay.
I don't have one on a traditional 18-hole course and like a full course that also has par threes, but I've got them in other places and I don't care. They count. It's all good because they're not some like mythical thing to be lauded and like we have to guard the sanctity of a hole in one. No, it's all luck to begin with. So just count them all. It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with most of that. I will say like so my personal stance on it is I am never going to tell someone that they didn't get a hole in one. If they said they got one and they describe it, whatever the situation is, it's like, yes, you were able to write a 1 on the scorecard and you're telling me you got a hole in one, you got a hole in one. Now, I have hole in ones at pitch and putts that prior to me getting the hole in one on like a 18 hole course, I would have told you, well, I don't consider myself as having a hole in one because like, I think part of that for me, it's totally for me, is you only have you have a small amount of opportunity, a very like finite amount of opportunities within that round of golf to have a legitimate shot at a hole in one. And I think that's what kind of separates it a little bit and makes it like special. And that really could just be more about like it's just a different type of hole in one. It's like, oh, do you have a hole in one? Yep, I do. It's like it's in category. I have one in category A, and I have four in category B, and I have one in category C, which is mini putt, that I can remember recently. So yeah, I would agree. Like for the most part,
You
it's like,
have
dude,
6 hole-in-ones. Whoa.
yeah, I guess so. I guess I do. Yeah.
That's right. That's
So
right. All right, fair enough. Well, by its nature, if it's a hot take, we shouldn't agree on all aspects of it.
that's right.
Um,
It's a good
so
hot take.
good. You can be wrong. It's fine with me. All right, cool. So my second one, I don't know if it's really a hot take. It's more of like we should just be real about this. Distance doesn't really matter all that much. It's fun. I'm pursuing it with everything I've got. The ball rollback, the new driver tech, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And even at I can even add the caveat, even at like elite levels of play. I was doing research. So on the
Ooh,
LPGA,
brought
okay,
receipts.
that's right. The LPGA, women who can play golf better than I will ever dream to. And I looked up their average driving distance for 2023. And these are also with the caveat of, agronomy and course conditions and things like that they're playing on. Like they're getting a lot more roll than we do here. Like I got backspin on most of my well
Yes.
struck drives at Langdon on last week. So I just picked a couple of names that are, kind of more recognizable. So Lilia Vu, 2023 Rolex top ranked player of the year, by all accounts, a stellar golfer, right? She has an average driving distance of 258 yards, which means probably 240 in the air.
Hmm.
And she's probably what, a plus 5, 6
At least, yeah.
at least. So, that's my hybrid, pretty much. So, I I'm
Like, and
still
you're
gonna
not, and
yeah,
you're not going
yeah,
to be able to play at her
yeah,
level
and
if you were like taking hybrid off every tee in a, like an effort to,
right,
like straight, like put yourself in the fairway more often. Like
right,
it just
right.
doesn't.
And I hear the argument. I hear the comments sizzling underneath. Oh well, it's LPGA. They play shorter courses. Blah blah blah. No, they don't. No, they don't. Average, according to the LPGA, average yardage for an LPGA Tour course between 62 and 6,600 yards. That's what I play all the time. And if I still, to your point, then if I hit uh, hybrid off at every tee, there's no way I'm sniffing par. Not a
Mm-mm.
chance. So Let's see. I picked a couple other names. Danielle Kang, 242 average, which means what? Probably like 230 in the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Was another one. Lizette Salas, 238. It's like these are not, and even the top driving distance on the LPGA tour was like 289 or something like that. That's average. So she's, some longer, some shorter, but still, it's like, okay, on my good ones in the summertime, I do that already. This isn't going to stop me from trying to hit the ball longer because it's fun and I want to, but
And it's true,
it's
and it
like,
helps. I
but,
mean,
and it
you
helps,
do
sure.
have to like, you
Yeah.
do have to
It,
concede the fact that being closer to the hole does
right.
give you a
It
better chance
gives,
at hitting it closer to the hole.
it gives me more opportunities for, I think, like that easy, like driver wedge type of birdie. But I mean, is it necessary for me to become a really good golfer and be able to score and get around a course? Absolutely not. I could lose 20 yards, through the bag and be probably okay. I mean, case in point, you're about a club shorter than me and you're a better you have a better handicap at the moment. Like you
Yeah,
score
true.
better than I do. So
That's a
it's
good
like,
point. That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
I and
Anecdotally.
I yeah, I keep going back to a couple years back. There was this like 14-year-old kid in the newspaper who had played Running Y, which is a course in Southern Oregon, and he had shot like 63 or something like that. I'm like, okay, I know I can put it past a 14-year-old kid, and he's lapping me as far as scoring goes. So clearly, I don't need distance is overrated. I'm all about the
Yes.
things that are overrated, but they're cool, and I'm still gonna try and make a hole in one I get every time on a par three because why not? It's the least amount of strokes, and I'm still gonna try and hit it as hard as I can. But it's kind of if it's not really like something I should tether myself to, as far as trying to really get good at scoring.
Yeah, I think that's also important to like one of the things, and it's whatever you want to call it, like influenced by the media or whatever, but like I fall into a trap of feeling very insecure about my distance, and I think it puts a little bit of a mental block on myself to saying like, oh, I can't get any better than I am because I can't hit the ball this far, or my 8-iron doesn't go this far. And then and it certainly doesn't help when you're watching you know TikTok golfers hit 7-irons from 195 yards.
So they
um,
say.
so right, and that's the part of it, is that it's like, yeah, sex sells, distance sells. We get it, and you do need to like have a little bit of media literacy around this stuff and be like, dude, there's so many factors: downwind, downhill, is it hot, is it a is it 211 yards on the card, but the tee box and where the pin is, it's really playing like 275, and they're actually trying to land it at like 262 because they know it's going to rocket forward. So this 200, they're hitting 8-iron from 211, but it's like, no, the ball really flew like 165 yards, and then it
Right.
ended up by the hole. That ball did not travel 211 yards. That ball
Right.
traveled, and so and of course they're not going to get on and explain that. Be like, hey, so I know it says 211 on the little score overlay graphic, but
Yeah,
actually what's going to happen is I'm going to hit it
yeah,
168 yards. So
yeah,
that's why I'm hitting 8-iron.
yeah. Just got to remember that they put those graphics there, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, it's consider the source. So I think that's a good, I think it's a good hot take because you are in the minority and in like the like kind of global data boy golf discussion, where the Scott Fawcett's of the world. Actually, I really like what Scott Fawcett does, but there is like a
Mhm.
little bit of too much of an emphasis probably put on distance, in terms of like how good can you be. Now, if we're talking about, I think our level, I would say if you're talking about it like elite, like trying to play professionally level, it's like, yeah,
Sure.
you do kind of like you there. If you want to
Sure.
be like a top 50 dude, like there is a threshold that you have, like you are not going to be able to carry the ball 275 and be a top 50 player in the world. It's just not going to
No, not
happen.
anymore. But there also are plenty of guys on tour who spent a couple seasons chasing distance and it wrecked them. And
Yes.
now they're back to like, oh, maybe I'm just going to, I'll take the distance gains that I got, but then get back to like trying to score. So, yeah, I mean, statistically, you can't argue that hitting the ball further and closer to the hole helps for like over the span of a season, over the span of a bunch of rounds. It helps you bring your scoring average down. Um, is it necessary for really high level scoring? No.
Right. That's good. All right. Awesome. All right. I'll get into mine. First one. So when I was, I'll preface this by saying when I was last year trying to like really start focusing on my game, it getting better. And I was documenting it a little bit and I was expressing some of my frustrations around like not being able to play well and score well because like I'm just not hitting the ball well enough. There's not enough consistency. And so many people would get in my DMs and be like, dude, you just got to work on your chipping and your putting, man. That's what it is. Like, you just get so good at chipping and putting that it just doesn't matter. Like your approach shots just don't even matter because you can get up and down from anywhere. And I'm like, you got like that's just such a uh such a like bad faith suggestion, I think. And I don't think it was made with like any malice intent. I think it was more just like, hey, keep your head up. Like maybe if you focus on these things, then I understand where it was coming from. I do think it was coming from a good place for the most part. But I also would love for people to step back and be like, hey, let's think about this for a second. If you are scrambling 18 times around, are you going to want to be playing golf for much longer? In my opinion, no.
Or
It's
are you going to make 18 pars?
no,
No. No.
no. I don't know. I was going to try to Google it before we jumped on what the uh, best scramble percentage on tour is, but I don't think it's much
Hmm.
better than like 60%.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
taking all shots into consideration. So like
Yeah.
I'm not that good at scrambling. So um, it's like I just this idea of like, oh, dude, just work on your chipping and putting. Like, don't focus so much on like your iron shots. I'm like, that's just that's backwards. That's totally opposite. Your chipping and putting can turn what would be a bad round into a mediocre round for sure. But if you like early last year, around this time last year, when I was averaging like 4 to 6 greens around, I had next to zero shot of shooting in the 70s. Like you just can't do it, and it's not fun. um
It's a
and I don't
grind
think
for sure.
you're not like, yeah, and that's the other part that I think people don't really understand. And I've been listening, going back to our conversation about think box and play box, and recently I listened to an episode of Chasing Scratch where they coined it as like system 1, system 2. And uh they pointed out like there is a ton of like cognitive energy taken up by jumping into that analytical uh space in your brain, which is really like when you're in a tough spot and you have to like think about, all right, how am I going to get up and down here to save par? Like every time you jump back in from think box, play box, or system 1 to system 2 and back and forth, like you are burning the glucose that your brain eats. And you only have so much of that. And once it's gone, or depleted enough, like you just can't really focus, and you can't grind, and you can't make it's very difficult to make good decisions, and it's very difficult to stay focused, and it's very difficult to like be in a good mood. And so like even if I did have world class talent around the greens, and I felt I could get up and down, 8 out of 10 times, I'm still not going to have a fun time if I'm hitting 6 greens around. Like, and I'm like, I had to play my ass off just like a shoot a 78. Um, it's just not fun. So that's like not good advice, really. It's like, hey, if your ball striking sucks, like get better at that.
Get better.
It is very important to be able to, chip, your short shots around the green obviously are very important. And it is important to practice those. Um, and that's something I'm focusing pretty heavily on this off season is getting a lot better at that, because I've had very good rounds get derailed by some pretty shoddy short game. Where it's like, man, if I would have, if I would have got up and down even once out of 3 times, that's saving 1 or 2 shots. So I think that, like, people who are like, oh no, like chipping and putting is literally the most important thing. Like that is it. Like that's all you got to focus on. That's all you got to worry about. It's like, no, there's like there's 2 other parts of the game that get you to the chipping and putting part that are pretty damn important. And it's important to be good at those things if you want to play at a pretty high level. So
For sure.
that's my first
Yeah.
hot take.
No, I liked this one. I liked this one. Initially, when I read it, I was like, "Ooh, I don't know that I agree." For me, for me, uh, simply because I know that I've typically had a better short game, and it's bailed me out a lot. And it also, when I know my short game is kind of more dialed in, it frees me up a ton to just kind of like, well, all I got to do is kind of slap it up there around the green, and
Yeah.
I'm good. Um, but I do agree with what you said there. I think, like, yes, when you present it like that, where people are just like, oh, all you got to do is just get really good short game, blah blah blah. That's like, I'm gonna lump that in with the whole like, oh, you just got to keep your head down. It's just antiquated. It's
Yeah.
like
It's
it's
nothing.
reductive,
It's
it's not
nothing.
helpful,
Yeah.
it's vapid, there's no substance to that
No.
information or recommendation at all. It's just pointless. I would push back in to the way that you just wrote it in the sense that like greens in regulation is greater than scrambling. I think it's more that just like you can't highlight a part of the game as the more important part. You can't. They're all like kind of what you ended on. They're all important. You have to be proficient to a
Proficient.
certain
Yeah.
level with all of them.
Yeah.
You can't be like, okay, like myself. I historically am not a very good driver of the ball. I hit it okay, like distance wise, but I can't keep it on the course.
Hmm.
Uh, it it absolutely just um, extinguishes my scoring capability. You can't be punching out sideways and make trying to grind for par from 150 to 100 whatever out,
Right.
all day long. Same thing as you can't be trying to scramble all day long. Same thing as, you can't be super shaky over 3 footers and four jacking every hole all day long. It's just not going to happen. You got to have all parts of the game at least to certain levels to to get better. I mean, you want to get better, practice everything.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yes. All right. Next one. I think I titled it something along the lines of "Elite Golf is for Kids."
Yeah,
And
this
so
I
this is an opinion. I don't know if you would put it under a take, but maybe it's a theory. But it's that you never see a kid have like this nasty chicken wing over the top move. That's like not the first time they've ever held a club, but they've like played a little bit. They've been swinging the club. They've been going to the range a little, they've done some junior camps. You do not see this like wipey early extension chicken wing over the top like duffer type move. It just I've never seen it, and not that I've interacted like with a ton of children who play golf, but like I've made it a point to, if I see a kid on a course or at a range and I'm like, yeah, that kid looks like they take golf fairly seriously, and just kind of watch them swing. It's like, yeah, man, they don't have any of the tendencies of like the jabronis that I see on the range. And you know, um, like I just don't see it. And so I got thinking like, man, like, what is this about? Because, kids who took golf seriously very early tend to be really, and they stick with it and they get proficient at all, areas of the game. Man, they're good and they stay good. And so this is going to go into a couple of parts, but, so my theory on it is from like a golf swing perspective is that like what's super important in or what's a common denominator across like all very good high level golf swings. Well, it's rotational in nature. Like the power, the power and the speed comes from kind of a rotational move, like your torso, your thoracic spine, your chest, whatever you want to call it. Is rotating, and that's like the engine of the golf swing. And then which leads to like really delivering the club face to the ball in a very stable way. There's very little flip. There is like the rate of closure isn't like drastically high. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule. Like, Phil Mickelson like absolutely sends the shit out of it, but he's, a once in a generational player.
Yeah, there aren't
Um,
many.
no. And so like, but like just very stable, like margin of error is greatly increased because there's just not a ton of variables being introduced as they're getting down into the ball. And it's like, okay, well, why is it easier for kids to get that than it is for adults? I think it's because kids have zero upper body strength. They have no ability to use their arms to create speed. And so they have to use their torso, which also has really no strength. And so what do they really have to use in order to create enough power and speed to like get the club, this very heavy club, to the ball? They have to use their pelvis, the ground force. They really have to like use the ground to turn. And I just don't think that that's like super inherent if you have enough upper body strength to create speed with your arms. So I think people who take up golf as an adult or as a very, or, as like a young adolescent or an older adolescent, which is like, I took up the game when I was like 16 years old, 17 years old. It's difficult to learn this kind of like rotational shallowing the club, stable club face into impact move because it's so counterintuitive to the way the body wants to move when it knows that I can create a ton of speed by just like kind of chopping down with the arms. Um, uh, and kind of flipping at the bottom. Like I can like generate artificial speed, if we want to call it. I just have no idea where the ball is going to go. I
Sure.
don't know if I'm going to hit the ball every time. And so I'm like trying to learn right now. I'm like testing this, and obviously it's like one data point. So there's no like statistical significance, but I'm trying to say like, hey, is it possible for someone who took up the game as an adult that doesn't have like baseball or some other kind of rotational sport like hockey that they played as a little kid in growing up, which like I played baseball as a little kid, but like I was afraid of getting hit by the ball. So like I didn't take batting seriously. I didn't practice it. I was
Yeah.
petrified of getting in the batter's box. So like that was just like completely, all of that was wasted on me. So I don't really have that background, that athletic background of this kind of rotational putting a stick to a ball. So I'm wondering, or how hard is it for an adult to learn to swing the golf club the right way, quote unquote,
Mm.
or the most efficient way to generate a good amount of speed and deliver the club face in a very stable, delofted way that you're supposed to. So
Mm.
that's kind
I
of
have
the
thoughts.
first part of it. So yeah, go ahead.
I have thoughts. Well, okay, so I've had the same thought, and that basically that kids, if you look at a lot of kids, just the way that they relate to even kids that aren't good and don't take golf seriously, if you give them a golf club and you put a ball down on a tee, out and away from them, they naturally make a much better swinging rotational motion. And I do think it's because that they don't have the amount of strength to overcome the implement, as in the golf club, and so that they have to swing it. This is the difference, in my opinion, between um, like hitting a ball with a golf club and swinging a golf club, and that the ball gets in the way.
Mm,
Because there is a very big difference in the quality of emotion if it's that you are generating force, and like Bryson says, he's like, you're not trying to swing it fast and hit it hard. You're trying to put force and torque into the golf club, and then it moves in a swinging motion around you. So I think they naturally, because they don't have the strength to manipulate the club head at will, they
Hmm.
have to use the momentum of the club head and actually swing it. And it just happens to end up kind of planing out and making them look and hit like all the PE positions
Yeah.
that we look for in today's day and age. So yeah, I'm totally with you there. Um, I would say then that this is my thought that I've had is that if for someone coming to the game, they need to focus on learning more, less about like grip, stance, alignment, posture, um, where to swing it to at the top, any kind of position based thing. And what they need to do is they need to understand the sensation of swinging something heavy or swinging something out and around you, so that the inertia, the force of it is pulling out and around, that's in a swinging motion. So I would say like get like a mace bell or something like that, where if you've seen those, they're like, it's an
Yep.
exercise tool, but it's like
Yep.
a,
Yep.
a bar with a big old weight on it, and
Hmm.
try and swing something like that
Or
around.
sledgehammer would
Yeah,
be a good
yeah,
alternative.
yeah. Oh my goodness, have you ever watched like speed tree felling or like
Yeah.
lumberjack competitions?
Yeah.
Those
Those
guys
guys
hit
whale.
amazing impact positions if you want to look
Yeah.
at it, and it's because you can't overcome 8 pounds on the end of a on the end of a
No.
stick out that far away. You have to swing it out this way and get the motion going, and then it pulls itself around and you're just hanging on for dear life and turning, right?
Or
So
like a
I
hammer or
that's
hammer throw, like a
yeah.
track,
Oh
like
yeah.
hammer throw.
Yeah.
That's very much, it's like you are just swinging that. You are kind of
You're
the
the pivot
fulcrum
point.
of the, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the pivot point. And then, yeah, you're just kind of like getting that thing going as much as you can before you decide to release it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you
That's
were
a
to
good
put
point.
and if you put like a hammer thrower or somebody like that, oh, on force plates, you'd see that their force is doing the same types of things that we want at like through impact in a golf swing. It's going up, back, and away
Yeah.
because their body is bracing against this thing that's swinging out and around them, and it's like preparing for it. It's not because they're doing that and towing it along, right?
Well, they're
So
breaking better. And I guess that's the other part
yeah,
of it, is like kids have to break in order to
not get
allow the
pulled
momentum of the
over.
club to get in front of them, and they don't get taken, they don't get taken with it.
Yeah,
So that's, yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting. I never
Which
thought of
is
it that
also
way.
why you don't see kids take many divots, because they once that momentum hits the ground, they're cooked,
Right.
right? That
Yeah.
club is not they're not propelling it through the ground, and they
No.
don't have enough they haven't generated enough speed because they're not, as strong to get, to swing it fast enough so that it gets through the ground on its own. So they, tend to be a lot more pickers of the ball. Anyway, I've had the same thought. I do think like, yeah, if you learn to swing an implement at a younger age and you haven't been, you know, screwed up by all the golf instruction that has been so prevalent over the years, um, you're going to do a lot of things much more naturally and than others will. um so as an adult, if you were coming to it, or just even as a older person, not a kid, I would say the same thing stands true. You just need to kind of like, maybe don't start with a golf club, maybe start with something even heavier, and then
Yeah.
dial back to once you learn the sensation of what it is to swing something around you. So
I got one of those power hitter, like heavy drivers. I found one
yeah,
at a Goodwill. I think I'm going to throw even a little bit of lead tape on it, get a little heavier, kind of mess
yeah,
around with that.
yeah,
The two other quick things on that. Going back to the divot idea. I don't know where I heard this. It may have been another podcast. It might have been a YouTube video, but it was, this guy was saying, he was like a teaching pro. He was like, back in the day, when you would go, and watch like these college kids or whatever play, you'd go on the range, you'd see these big, steep, huge divots at the driving range. He goes, now what you see is almost nothing. Like the impact area, a lot of times you won't see a ton of divots, but what you will see is where their feet were is just torn to shreds, because there has been a shift in, you know, I guess traditional thinking of like where, how to generate power. And it's like, oh yeah, man, it all comes from the ground.
Mm.
And so yeah, he said it's a very interesting phenomenon. Like you'll go and we saw that video of Tiger saying, yeah, when I'm flushing it, I'm like, I don't really take divots. And I think that's probably kind of a somewhat new thing because I mean, watching like Tiger videos from early 2000s, that dude slang divots. But I think as he got older and obviously his body is broken down, he's probably had to like find other ways. Cause I mean, the dude can still get up like 180-mile ball speeds. And,
Yeah.
he has, he has like aluminum foil for a back, and, toothpicks for a left leg. So I think that like he creates that force. And as a result, like this, I like that coming into impact is just a little more shallow. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
interesting.
not
This,
that's not super new for Tiger though. Like because I remember the well, one, if you look at like 90s Tiger, his swing is so flowing and long
yeah,
and
that's
he could
true.
hit the ball so high. But then I remember there's one of the old pros has famously been like Lehman or somebody like that when Tiger first came out and they like went over to where he was at the range and they're like, there's no divots here.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
the grass was just bruised, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyway, sorry.
The last thing is kind of tangentially, I don't know, related to that is, I've said for a long time, because like every once in a while, if you're like a halfway decent player and you get paired up with like a random person who's like, a standard 20 plus handicap, and you hit like, you pretty easily make par on a hole. They're like, oh man, you ever thought about going pro? And I'm like, no, I mean, it's flattering, but no, I'm so far away from that. I can't, I don't even think I can, like, my brain has the capacity to conceive it. Um, but, so I've always said like, no, no, like tour pros are born. They are not, you do not like grind your way to being a tour pro, like being at that level. Now, I think if you are at that level, then the grind starts to like be in that top 125, and that's where I think you can like, but like that there's a subset of humans on this earth that have the capability of being a professional golfer, and I know that I am not one of them, and most people aren't. And I was I was listening to Chasing Scratch again, to bring them up again, and I forget who they had on the show, but he had mentioned that like, yeah, like it's a recognized phenomenon that PGA Tour players have a significantly smaller amygdala than other people, which is like
Mm.
the fear aversion, or like failure aversion, like part of the
Mm-hmm.
brain. So like they're just like not as afraid to fail as we are. And so that's like that's that killer instinct that they have that we just like, I don't have because my amygdala is too big. So
Yeah,
thanks,
I think
amygdala.
we've talked about that sort of before, and I kind of have like my opinion of it is, yeah, yes, I think you have to be born with some semblance of ability, but I do think it's kind of like what we were just talking about. It's like it's more about when you come to it. If you, as a kid, learn how to swing something and you develop that motor pattern, and you're not fighting other things and trying to grind and come to it later in life, and you just have it naturally, then your starting place is so much better
Hmm.
when you start to get serious with things. So, but yeah, I mean, there aren't there are not each of us has the ability to be a top 50 player in the world for sure. Like literally most of us don't. So, yeah,
That's not really a hot take. That was just like more of an observation because I can't imagine there are many people in the world that wouldn't agree with that.
fair.
Um, these last two aren't necessarily takes. These are more about if I were in charge of golf, if someone just handed me the keys to all of golf, here are like two things that I would do pretty quickly to like try to make it better for everyone. First thing I would do, this is again assuming I have unlimited money. I would redesign every single golf course so they have 3 6s instead of 2 9s.
Hmm.
And have someone much smarter than me figure out some type of scheduling / reservation system to make that work, so that people could play loops of 6, 12, or 18. And just open up more opportunities for people to get on the course and play with different time commitment abilities. And if we could figure it out, it'd be cool to do like 6 threes if it's
Oh,
possible. I don't
that'd be
I don't
dope.
know.
That'd
Uh,
be cool.
so that I
I would.
think that right there would open up a lot more opportunities for people to play golf, because it would be, I know for me, like especially this time of year when it's, when it's light for like 17 minutes a day, it would be really nice to be able to just be like, all right, cool. I finish up this meeting at like 4. It's going to be dark in 45 minutes. Let me go play 3 holes.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
would
really
love
do
that.
that, or most
Yeah,
people can't.
I would love
So
that. I would play the crap out of 3 hole loops.
So
Yeah.
at the very least, 3 6s, 6 threes would be even better. Um, and as kind of an extension of that, I just think small golf in general is something that should be more invested in. Like pitch and putts, I think are super super fun, and there aren't a ton around anywhere. Like
Mm-mm. Yeah.
think of or
Or
like a driving range, but it's like a world class short game center. Um,
yeah,
that's like my
yeah.
favorite when I go to a really nice golf course. That my I don't give I mean the nice golf course is great, cool clubhouse, awesome. But my favorite part that I geek out on is like the putting green complex or in the short game area. I'm like every time
Yeah.
I always say the same thing. It's like, dude, I could live here. I could live.
Yeah.
I could live right here and just be fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the best thing about pitch and putts is that your hole in ones count.
That's right. That's right. Just rack them up, dude.
That's right.
Um, so then, yeah, and then moving on, more of like an administrative thing. I titled it course tiers. So I think one of the tough things about golf, especially like public golf, is like it's one of the tough things. It's also one of the beautiful things about golf is like the kind of random nature of how people are paired together in a lot of cases. And
Mm.
so like slow play is obviously a problem, and it's tough, and it makes golf like pretty not enjoyable, in my opinion, especially if you're like walking and you're like trying to play for score, and you have like other shit that you have to do. It sucks when it takes 5 hours to play a round of golf, because that's like a lot of standing around. It's a lot of waiting. It's hard to get into a rhythm. And I think a lot of that has to do with just like like hugely mismatched like talent gaps in like within a group. Um, and then really like a mismatch of talent perception versus like what's reality. And so
Yeah.
I, so there's like 2 ways. So course tiers kind of falls into these two categories. So first, I would love like within every course, like figure out a way to tier like how players um get paired up so that like similar age or not age, sorry, similar skill levels have an opportunity to get like paired up together on a more random basis, or like strange, like not random, but like as a stranger. Um, so that like I think it's more enjoyable for everyone in the group if everyone's kind of around the same skill level, because there's a lot less pressure. Um, the flow is very similar because everyone's kind of hitting similar type shots. So it's just very familiar. It's very comfortable. I think that would be very nice. Um, and then if you wanted to, it would also open up opportunities for like kind of mentorship. So if like you're a really good player and you're like really cared about growing the game and making the game more fun and enjoyable, like you could sign up, like, I don't know, maybe like a little brother, little big brother type situation, little sister, big sister type situation where it's like, hey, like I am a scratch golfer, but I'm going to go ahead and sign myself up for like the 15 plus handicap block so that I could get paired in and just kind of like go out there and like kind of just like, hey man, like I'm pretty good at golf. If you have any questions
Mm.
about how I would play a shot or something, like let me know. I'm just here. Like I'm going to play my ball, but like, don't feel like I'm just out here for fun. don't feel like I'm holding you up or you're holding me up in any way. And if you have questions, like feel free to ask me. That's kind of like, I signed up for this tea time block because I want to be able to help you out. And having, someone show you around. I think that would like be a great way for people to have an opportunity to like get introduced to higher level players in a much, much less stressful situation.
Yeah,
Um,
I dig
so
that. I, I think it's kind of like I wish that the course rating and slope systems were more heavily utilized, and that
mhm.
like people made a bigger deal out of playing the appropriate rating and slope, like the appropriate like courses for your skill level, and then even selecting the appropriate tees. Like I wish it was made more of an official, like not policed, but like a thing.
Well,
And that's not to say like you can't play your, something harder than what your skill level is, because you got to get better somehow. But yeah, I kind of like what you're saying too. It's like it almost like you could have a better player not like sponsor you and like bring you along and say, hey, here's we're gonna go and play like the harder stuff today, and you're with me, and we're gonna, I'm gonna
yeah,
show you how to get around. And so
yeah. Well, that actually kind of segues a little bit into like the second portion of this, which is like a little bit policing to an extent what players can and can't do. And I it's like, it's, hey, get your government out of my whatever. But it's more about like for the betterment of everyone's enjoyment, including your own guy who shouldn't be playing the tips, but you think you are,
yeah,
but you choose to
yeah.
anyway. For like your own blood pressure, I think it's important that you probably play up a T box or two.
Yeah,
And so, the way that we're going to do that, we're just going to mandate it. So you can't play, and this, I'm glad you mentioned slope and rating. So you can't play a T box that would put you at a slope, or, a slope and rating X above your hand, or X below your handicap.
yeah.
Um, whatever that is. And then it's like, hey, dude, like, oh, I want to play the back tees. It's like, okay, well then get better, man. Take a lesson. Here's a
Mm,
brochure for a lesson. And just because you said you want to play the back tees, and like you've shown initiative and you want to get better and you want to be able to play the back tees, we'll give you 15% off or whatever. Um,
yeah,
we don't have to get into the marketing of this hypothetical campaign, but it's more about like, I do think it's important, or it's, maybe we should explore like, yo, if you don't want to have 5.5 hour rounds peak season on a weekend, like you
right.
need you need to get people to
Yeah,
move up and understand that how bad they are at golf. Even people that are kind of good
yeah.
aren't really, still, it's like, dude, I'm a 3.8 handicap. I have no business playing a 7,200 yard golf course. Just I
No,
just don't. I mean,
no.
like, I just don't.
Yeah,
So what? So I can go out and shoot 84? Like, nah, dude.
yeah. But you did it like a man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
repressed all of my emotions till I got in the car and then
that's
I
right.
cried.
Yeah, that's right. I broke 3 clubs, but
Yeah, like a man.
yeah, like a man. No, I agree. I think like USGA. I know you're listening. Probably not,
Mike,
but you know what? Come on now,
come
make
on, Mister.
handicap make handicap tracking free. Don't be making people pay for
There
that.
we
Just
go.
just
There we go.
carte blanche. That way there's no barrier for like,
That's
oh, I don't have a handicap.
socialism.
Just it's free. Provide it for everyone. And then at each course, then a course can say, okay, well, show us your card. Cool. Show us your handicap. It's standardized. Everybody has, we know you have it. It's free. So if you don't have it, you got no excuses. And then we can start to kind of look and see like, okay, yeah,
Well, so that was I'm glad you said that because I almost forgot. That was the other thing too, is like, hey, have like a bifurcation in like golf courses where there are handicap required golf courses and non-handicap required golf courses. And it's like,
mm,
dude, if you want to go play a handicap required golf courses, which is like, hey, make the nicer ones handicap required. Because that incentivizes people to get better and then go
mhm.
play the nicer courses.
Or
That
even
way it's like,
certain
yeah,
tea
or
times throughout the
yes,
day.
or like, yeah, peak tee times or whatever. Like you have to have an established handicap, which means you have to have played. You have to play a certain amount of rounds, and and maintain that, and be a part of a club, and again, make it free. Like, don't require, like, let's make it accessible, make it free, but it's like, also make it social. Yeah, you got to go and find a club to join. It's free, but
Mm-hmm.
go join
Mm-hmm.
it, and enter your scores, and make sure you have to play with people so that they can verify, um, and all this stuff, and play by the rules. And like, in order to play this subset of golf courses that you may want to play, you have to go through all those steps, and you have to prove to the golf community that you take this seriously enough to go do that. And part of that is like, then I think at that point you can probably be a little bit more rigid on pace of play rules,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, I mean, shit, man, when I was at Ballybunion, um, we fell behind pace. It wasn't my
Mm-hmm.
fault, but we fell behind pace.
Mm-hmm.
They had a guy in a cart chasing us the entire, like, pretty much like
Mm-hmm.
the middle part of the round, being like, you guys got to pick it up. You guys got to go,
Yep.
got to go, got to go,
Well,
got to pick it up.
and like better players should know better too. Like, you're
Yes.
out of position, do what you can to speed up. And better players also know, like, okay, well, we know how to play ready golf. I know, like, okay, I'm just going to go over here and tee off, even though you guys are still putting it. Like, you're familiar enough with the game at that point that you should be able to manage that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was, so that's my, like, from an administrative standpoint, if someone handed me the
Cool.
keys, that is how I would make
Um,
the game of golf better.
I'm pretty sure we just described Mario Golf. Um,
Hell yeah.
and that you can only play certain courses once you've like leveled up enough, and I love that. Mario Golf is how I learned to play golf, so that's fantastic.
Cool. Well, that's all I had. Is that all you had?
That's all I've got.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on the end of season one, which is exciting. We've got a couple more episodes before we jump into season two, which, if I'm doing my math right, season two will be a little bit more heavy on play, which is going to be nice. Very excited about that. But in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram at Mid-Am Podcast. Obviously, we've mentioned a few times we are also on YouTube. So if you'd like to see our beautiful faces attached to our even prettier voices, then that's the YouTube channel is going to be the way to do that. And we are, again, hopeful to be putting some kind of on-course content on there as well. You can find me, Tyler, on Instagram at Fade and Fairway, and you can find Nathan at Thistle Leather Goods.
And you can find
Special. Go ahead.
both of us at Mid-Am Podcast on
That's right.
Instagram.
That's right. That's right. And a special thanks to the artist that granted us permission to use his song. Zach.
Jake
Jake.
Lizard.
Jake Lizard.
Yep.
Yep. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.